Tokyo, the world's largest metropolis, a city synonymous with wealth, innovation, and precision. Beneath the dazzling neon lights and spotless streets, a hidden reality exists, a shadow population struggling silently, largely unseen by the outside world. This is the Tokyo tourists rarely see. Welcome to the invisible side of Japan's economic miracle. In these tiny cubicles, thousands spend their nights. They're known as net café refugees, victims of precarious employment, rising rents, and societal isolation. They drift between these cafés, never knowing stability.
最初はマンションなど借りるところを探してましたけど、結構な値段が張ったので、やはりネットカフェで。
Decades of economic stagnation have birthed an entire generation reliant on temporary jobs. Over 40% of Japan's workforce now navigates a perilous existence without benefits, job security, or hope for retirement.
65歳です。
この町ってどんな町ですか？
これはホームレスの町です。
何名ぐらいいらっしゃるとかなんですか
？300人います。川沿いにもいっぱいいます。
お父さん大体ここに何年ぐらい
20年。じゃあ45からこっち来たです。
今お父さんどこに住んでますか？
ここ公園です。ここ公園にも10人ぐらい住んでます。
Minako Shimada started working part-time last year at this employment agency in Tokyo. She wanted to help her family make ends meet. Temporary workers like Ms. Shimada are known as non-regulars in Japan and now account for 38% of the workforce. On average, they're paid about 60% of what regular workers make, often for doing the same job.
Perhaps most tragically overlooked are Tokyo's elderly. With pensions inadequate to cover even basic expenses, many older residents find themselves scavenging or forced into menial labor long past retirement. A case study in Tokyo Adaira revealed that nearly 22,000 people in Japan died alone in the first 3 months of 2024, with about 80% aged 65 or older. This phenomenon, known as Kodokushi, or lonely death, underscores the severity of social isolation among the elderly. Efforts to combat this include volunteer patrols and sensor-equipped devices to monitor elderly residents, aiming to reduce the occurrence of unnoticed deaths.
工場閉鎖でね、募集したの辞める人。ほんで、ほら、退職金か。あれがね、年収の 2.5 倍くれるっていうから、それもらってアメリカ行っちゃった。ラスベガスでギャンブルやってね。もう生き物なし。
あ、そうなんですか。
それでホームレス転落。
あ、本当にそのせいで？
退職金みんな使っちゃったから。
ああ。
だってアメリカ行った時サンフランシスコにいたもん。
あそこで、はい。
ドライバーが信号待ちしてると窓開けてお金くって。
Compounding the financial hardships is Japan's intense societal stigma around poverty. Many would rather hide their suffering than risk public shame or judgment. This isolation fuels a deeper crisis, mental health and loneliness. A 2024 government survey revealed that 39.3% of people in Japan reported feeling lonely, at least occasionally, a figure that has remained consistent since 2021. Notably, those using smartphones for over 8 hours daily reported higher levels of loneliness, suggesting a link between digital overuse and social isolation. Single mothers in Tokyo often endure relentless pressures. Without adequate social support, many balance multiple low-paying jobs, childcare, and household responsibilities, barely keeping afloat. Japan has approximately 1.4 million single-parent households, with about 90% led by mothers. Despite 85% of these mothers being employed, nearly half live below the poverty line. This paradox arises from systemic issues such as wage disparities, limited access to affordable childcare, and societal stigmas. Cultural expectations often place the burden of child rearing solely on mothers, and the lack of robust child support enforcement exacerbates financial strains. In 2011, only 20% of divorced mothers received child support. Another growing crisis, hidden in the shadows of Japan. More and more young Tokyoites are slipping into homelessness. Strained family ties, school bullying, and a lack of social support push them to the margins, where they hide their situation out of shame, becoming invisible to the world around them. Officially, Japan reports approximately 2,820 homeless individuals nationwide. However, this figure excludes those in unstable housing situations, such as internet cafés or capsule hotels. In Tokyo alone, estimates suggest around 4,000 people live in internet cafés, with the actual number of homeless individuals potentially ranging between 100,000 and 200,000 nationwide. These youth often come from poor households where economic stress, abuse, or neglect push them out. With few safety nets, limited access to welfare, and strong cultural shame around poverty, they hide their struggles and become invisible. Japan's high child poverty rates, especially in single-parent homes, make this issue a growing but often unseen crisis.
持ってきました。
はい。こちらの、はい、マークさんから、はい、マークさんたちから、はい。ちょっとかなり重いです。大丈夫ですか？重いです。
重いです。
ね。入れ物もどうぞ。
じゃあ中に入れて。
でも入れ物も大丈夫。
In Japan, poverty and social isolation often remain hidden due to deep-rooted stigma and cultural pressures to endure hardship silently. Yet, quiet acts of kindness persist. Community cafeterias like Kodomo Shokudo feed children in need, and nonprofits such as Sanyukai and Tenohasi provide food, medical care, and companionship to the homeless. Cultural efforts like the Small Kindness Movement and Tiger Mask donations show how everyday people fill the gaps left by limited public support. However, genuine and lasting change requires more than individual goodwill. Japan must move beyond sympathy and address poverty as a systemic issue. This means enacting bold social and political reforms, expanding access to welfare, enforcing child support laws, and improving housing and job security, especially for vulnerable groups like single mothers, youth, and the elderly. The invisible poor need recognition and empowerment, not charity alone. Without structural change, acts of kindness, no matter how noble, will remain band-aids on a much deeper wound. Japan must confront the realities of inequality to build a more inclusive and humane society.